Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you might be. A big welcome to you all. My name is Sean, and I'm delighted you are joining us for today's ESPC community webinar. Today I am joined by Davy, who will cover The Future is Now, a casual chat about Copilot Studio and generative AI. We love hearing what you guys have to say, so remember to join in on the conversation about today's webinar and more on X. Our handle is @ESPC_community, and our hashtag is #ESPC24. Tweet us, tag us, and tell us what you learned. Don't forget to check out our Learning Hub, which is updated daily with the latest blogs, ebooks, webinars, and how-to videos. You can access and view the Learning Hub by visiting our website, sharepointeurope.com, and clicking the Content tab at the top. Don't let the learning stop here. Continue to keep up and stay ahead by joining us for the next webinar, GitHub Pack Up, which approach is the best, with Greg back. This webinar will take place on Monday the 8th of April 2024, 12 p.m. to 1 p.m. CEST. For more information on this webinar, please check out www.sharepointeurope.com/register for webinars. Join us for EPPC 24, where you can unlock the full potential of Microsoft Power Platform. Explore Dynamics, Copilot, Power Apps, Power BI, Power Pages, and Power Automate, all in one dynamic event. Don't miss out on this opportunity to learn from industry experts, network with professionals, and participate in hands-on workshops. Limited spots available, so secure yours today at www.sharepointeurope.com/European Power Platform Conference pricing. Stay ahead in the ever-evolving world of Microsoft 365 with ESPC 24. Gain invaluable insights, network with peers, and supercharge your career. Don't miss the super early bird sale. Book your tickets now at www.sharepointeurope.com pricing. After the webinar, we'll have a questions and answers session. Type any questions you might have into the questions window. Questions will be selected and answered at the end of the presentation. This webinar will be recorded and added to the Resource Center, where you'll be notified by email when it is available. And now, I'm going to pass you over to today's webinar presenter, Davy. Hello, Davy. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks. It's a pleasure to be here. So today we're going to talk about the generative AI, and especially in the area how Microsoft looks to it. I'm going to share my screen. Can you see my screen now?
Yeah, I can see your screen, yeah, and I can see the slide.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. So I will start a little bit at the beginning with a slide deck. I'm struggling a little bit with the tool, yeah. And then I will switch over with live demos as well. So the topic of today is the conversational AI and how Microsoft with Copilot Studio are looking to it and how it can help. So first of all, if we see how people are using computers, it is evolving from classic using of a computer really to now using the full AI capability and helping organizations to think different how business processes can be handled. And I hope that during this hour, I will inspire you, show you what it means, how it can help, and what Microsoft can bring you. So first of all, a little bit few numbers. There is a lot of information that is coming. And this is slides from Gartner, where they really think about that in the next couple of years. And it's really next year, within 2 years, a lot of applications will be going in that conversational AI capability. The way that we're going to use and work with computers will be maybe completely different than the way that we worked with computers a couple of years ago. And I will show you a lot of examples from components and features that are available now, and as well some of them that will come later on, where you will see this nice new way of working. I will try to reduce the high-level marketing slides. Let's keep especially on products, features, and what it is. If we look to the whole generative AI, we know it a little bit more as ChatGPT, which is an example of that generative AI capability. If we see the speed that it's growing, it's immense. Here you see a nice slide where we can compare the duration that it was needed for reaching the 100 million users for a mobile phone. You see 60 years. Internet, it took 7 years to reach that goal. And for ChatGPT, it's only within 3 months that we saw that usage growing to 100 million. So it's an intense speed of that capability. But what it is and how you can use it, let's dig into. So first of all, conversational AI, and especially if we look to the chatbots, the way that chatbots in the past was created had a little bit challenges. And you see here a few challenges on the screen. To pick up a few of them, building and time constraints. Building a chatbot sometimes, especially in the past, takes a lot of time. Time to build, time to train, to adjust all the different topics that a chatbot can handle. It was not always easy to maintain the content. If something changed, a procedure or a document, some people need to adapt the chatbot to make it in line with the new regulations or the new documents. So there were a lot of challenges why maybe that chatbot was not really used in the full potential in all its glory in business or in industries. And so we saw it as well, that the whole generative AI and how chatbots are used is growing from initially the out-of-the-box chatbots. The out-of-the-box chatbots where vendors build it by their own, a chatbot, and give it to the business. The time to build this kind of chatbots takes a lot of duration. It was hard to maintain, hard to support. And what it could offer was very limited. It was predefined by that supplier, and the suppliers offered it to the customers, and they could just use it as it was defined by that supplier. It was not enough. It was a good starting point, and then we saw the second area where pro developers, developers in an organization, were using a little bit the same technique to enhance those capabilities, to build their own chatbots from a pro standpoint. They could already do a little bit more topics. Topics are the different questions, the different journeys that a chatbot can handle. It was maybe going more business oriented and customized to a certain industry or a certain customer. But still, if you look to the time to build, it was huge. And if you compare it with the topic that was created, it takes a lot of time, especially for pro developers. And then knowing that on that moment as well, the pro developers had already a hard time to do a lot of coding. Chatbots creating was not their main task. It was something probably that they have to do on the side of their daily job. In the third phase here, we saw that low code, also Microsoft, and you recognize probably that icon of our Power Virtual Agent, where we was aiming to introduce the business and the subject matter experts in building together with the IT people in a kind of a fusion team, building together chatbots. The way that then chatbots could be used was already easier than that full pro code way, but still it wasn't really easy to build and maintain large-scale chatbots. We still have to define each topic, each journey, each step that we wanted to guide the user through manually in each of the topics. But now, if we see by that generative AI capability that is introduced by the end of last year inside or conversational AI into the chatbot structure, we will see, and I will demo you with a lot of examples, how easily now chatbots can be created. The time to build has really reduced to an absolute minimum. And you will see as well that power of that language model, the understanding of what people are doing, but as well of the content that we give to a chatbot, will increase the number of topics that can be covered. And that is really the big difference if we see how that generative AI helped people not only build faster, but cover a lot of topics. So we mentioned then that Copilot. That Copilot is actually how we call our generative AI infused chatbot. And so if you see to the vision of Microsoft what a Copilot is, it is actually here a nice definition. It is using that generative AI, meaning we can understand certain text coming from the user, maybe coming from documents that we need to handle. And we use that large language model, that GPT model, to understand what people are doing, to understand intent, and use those two techniques together to assist people in doing their job better. So in the next couple of slides, I will show you a few out-of-the-box Microsoft Copilots, and there you will nicely see that we try to use that language model in such a way that we help the people to better use certain products, to help using them the service more easily. And so if we then see, is Copilot just a chatbot? I have this question a lot in discussions with customers. I would say no. There's a big difference. And for me, the most important difference is the second area in that Copilot box, the grounding. And grounding means we learn chatbot for certain systems, sources, content that he can use by himself to find answers. We will see later on in the demos where we build our own custom Copilot, how we easily maybe can bring in documents. But it's not only documents, it's maybe a Copilot or a chatbot that understands a certain program, a certain service. And that will make a Copilot different from a chatbot. It understands a certain way information in this way that it's grounded in that technique. And so then you will have a lot of Copilots. And you will hear a lot of Copilots if you look to all the Microsoft technologies. And it's good to see that if you see Copilot for, and then a term, a technique, or a service from Microsoft, that is actually defining that there is a Copilot built by Microsoft for that particular service. And what makes it unique is that Copilot is then grounded to understand that service quite well. So it means a Copilot for Microsoft 365 will understand your emails, will understand your chats, your MS Teams information, but it will not understand anything from your code which is in GitHub. Therefore, we have another Copilot. So you will see a lot of different Copilots, which each of them will help you to better work with that service. Maybe go into a few examples to make it quite concrete, and then we jump to build more Copilot by yourself. We have, for example, Copilot in Power Apps. In the Power Platform, for each of the products, they come with an out-of-the-box Copilot feature. Here you see an example where, in the slide deck, a user is uploading an Excel file, and the Copilot will help them to build an application together, looking to the data. But it's not just building that one time. You will see that as well, maybe if we go and execute that application, and there is even another Copilot that is for the end user, allowing him to ask questions about their own data in the application. So these are examples of the Microsoft Copilot for the Power Platform or Power Apps, how it will help the user to build and use an application. In the second example, I'm going to show you how a Microsoft Windows Copilot maybe, and that's one that will come in the future, can maybe help a user to build an RPA job or an automation job. So, and this is a video with voice. So let's go over and let me know if you hear the sound.
Oh no, another email with data to copy. Let's see if Copilot can help me with this.
Yeah, we can hear the sound.
Okay, perfect.
Open this Excel attachment from David's email, then enter the data into the invoicing app. You need to navigate to this section and select New and input the data here.
Got it. Here is how I will map the data between the spreadsheet and the app. I don't know what to put in the contact field. Can you show or tell me how to fill it in?
Combine the first name and last name columns. For example, for the first row, the contact is Frank Martin.
Understood. Should I transfer the first row for you now?
Yes, please.
Done. What steps do you take to transfer the remaining data?
After entering row, you need to click Save, then New, and enter the additional rows.
Got it. Shall I transfer the remaining rows?
Yes, please.
Okay, I've transferred the 42 rows from the Excel file to the Contoso invoicing app. Is there anything else you would like to do?
Yes. Please send an email with the new rows in the invoicing app.
Understood. Shall I draft an email now?
Go ahead.
Done. Feel free to make any change or show me what to do next.
The table doesn't look very nice.
Do you want me to change it?
It should look like this.
Perfect. I will format it like this next time. Is there anything else to do now?
That's all. Thanks.
So this was a quite advanced example of how Copilot helps really a user with that generative AI and understanding. And you saw not only we can use text, but we will use voice. And in this example as well, you have seen that even he recognized areas that we can just define on the screen, that we can say, look, this is the field that I need. And he even understands areas that we select with mouse input. So this is examples of what Microsoft Copilot is and how it can help us. So it's clear that hopefully each Copilot, each product comes with a different Copilot. And we can use them. For example, the productivity for Microsoft 365, we can extend then and use that Copilot for M365. But we will have even sometimes the need to extend it. An example, Microsoft 365 Copilot don't know anything from my internal data. Think about an SAP system or any other legacy system that I have, and I want to bring that data into my Copilot as well. So for this, we have a way to do that. It's called Copilot Studio. And Copilot Studio is an editor, a tool that allows you to do a few things. First of all, it will allow you to extend all the Microsoft first-party Copilots. For example, we can customize the Microsoft 365 Copilot, bring in our own data, or to bring in maybe workflows, Power Automate flows that we really want to guide a user through when he communicates over that Copilot. With Copilot Studio, we also will able to build standalone Copilot. And so a few examples where maybe people will look into a standalone ones is if they are not able to invest in that M365 Copilot. Think about a shop floor or shop floor employees working in a factory. They don't always have that Microsoft 365 license, so they cannot utilize that Copilot. Or if you want to build a chatbot that is facing to your external audience, to your customers or to your clients, for those ones you can build your standalone. Or where you want to change and tweak more the way that a journey has been handled. And we will see as well that sometimes that low-code way, because Copilot Studio is still building chatbots in a low-code way, isn't sufficient. That we maybe want to change the way that the prompting has been done, or that we manipulate more how the language model interacts. Maybe we have built even our own language model and we want to use this one. For those one, we have the Azure AI Studio. And we will see that nicely, both of them can work together and can even rely on each other. So we will share later on the slide text. I will not go in detail of this one, but here you will see nicely an overview of what each of the services is aiming for and where each of the features are, what it can offer. So let's look a little bit now more in that Copilot Studio. So I just mentioned Copilot Studio is a SaaS solution. It's a solution you don't need to install on your computer. You just can go to a website, copilot.microsoft.com, and it will allow you to work with that chatbots that you have created or that you can extend. And so it will allow you to build your own custom ones, start from scratch, and bringing your own knowledge in a chatbot. And it's a little bit actually the same as we had previously in the Power Virtual Agent, but with many, many new features on top of it. Copilot Studio is here as well to extend all the first-party Copilots. If you just have the Microsoft 365 Copilot, you will have also the use rights to use Copilot Studio to just extend that Copilot. Copilot Studio is also the way to connect with different platforms in your organization. Think about already the Azure AI Studio that I mentioned, but it can be Azure Cognitive Services, the bot framework, or even maybe Power Platform, the AI Builder or Power Automate, where you will jump from that chat conversation into maybe a Power Automate flow to retrieve information, take it into account, and send it to the user in his journey. Or maybe to use the connectors, as we will see later on, to interact with that information from a connector with the user. So Copilot Studio is the editor, and you can mainly do a few things. And depending on what you want to do, if you extend an existing Copilot or you build your own Copilot, certain features will be allowing or will be invisible. For example, with extending Microsoft Copilot, you can bring in AI plugins, which we will see later on, and you can build conversational plugins. It's a little bit like a Power Automate flow that you will then link in a certain topic and help the user to guide through that journey and bring in external data. If you build your own Copilot, you have more features, like you can bring in topics, which we see later, you can bring in plugins, and the whole generative AI capability. There's a lot of more publications capability. You can publish to many different channels, something you cannot do with the existing Microsoft Copilot, and it gives you a lot of more insights. And on top of it, you have that admin studio, and this is actually the same admin studio that you will have for your Power Platform, because Copilot Studio is a product, is a part of the full Power Platform chain. Here you see an overview of all the core capabilities that is on top of Copilot Studio. So it's more than what we had before just in that Power Virtual Agent. And sometimes people ask me, is now Copilot Studio just a rename or a rebranding from previous Power Virtual Agent? I would say no. You see, there's a lot more features that are coming into that Copilot Studio. Let's jump to a few of them just to show you. Think about authentication. You can easily authenticate now within your bot. You can have internal authentication within Teams, or even support external authentication with Azure Active Directory or any other OAuth provider. Think about Google or even Facebook. And you can link with direct line security and even voice control. Also, there's a lot of analytics that you will have out of that Copilot to see insights of what is going on. You can have KPIs to understand how are people handling the conversations, how are people doing the interactions with your chatbot. And you can even go further and look into monitoring. You can, for example, extend it now easily with the Azure application insights features that we have. And with an easy click, you have all that information then in a single application insight. And if you look a little bit in detail, you can then ask to even the questions, the journeys, the answers that has been done, maybe through that generative answer in your chatbot easily from one single spot. So you see a few examples on what are the features that are on top of Copilot Studio, which we didn't have, for example, previously on that Power Virtual Agent. But there is more. You see here, the Microsoft Copilot Studio is the full base layer to build custom ones and extend all the Microsoft ones, but maybe other ones coming from enterprise or third parties providers. For all of those ones, one tool is there to help you. And it brings in that generative answer. And let's now jump a little bit more in that detail of what is all that generative answer now in that Copilot Studio. And so first of all, before going into the three main features, what we see is, and think about that previous, in the beginning, that slide of the 4 areas. There was a hard way to build in a chatbot all the topics. We have to define all the different topics that we want to go. And in each topic, we have to define all the manual steps and iterations that we want to go through with the user. And it was quite hard for very complex situations to build chatbots. And here, now with that generative AI embedding in your Power Virtual Agent, I will show you how easily that building will become and how large topics now can be handled. And that is allowing you in 3 different ways. The first one is generative answers. We have generative actions and the generative building. And let's maybe go in one by one. The generative answers is giving your chatbot a way that he is able to find his own information in sources. You go from a kind of single term into a multi-turn chat. In the past, for each question, for each different topic and action that you want in a chatbot, you have to define it yourself. Now you will see we don't need it anymore. We have a single block that we can just give in our chatbot. We link it to sources, data sources, and then the chatbot will use all the different data sources to find his own answers. So how does it now work? And this is a very important slide. So first of all, a user types in a message. And then we go in that step 1. The first thing that we will do is we still will moderate that message. We will remove harmful words. We will filter to make it in a quite safe question. The second one is we will then optimize that question to make sure that the system understands what are all the data sources that he will need. And we're going to search for that information in step 3. And that is the most important one. That's a little bit that grounding. We will provide him all the different sources that he is allowing to use to find information. That can be Bing APIs, that can be the Bing cache for public websites, that can be the whole Microsoft Graph, think about for your emails, your SharePoints, all the information that you have inside an organization. Or you can bring the Azure Cognitive Searches into account. And so it's good to see that we don't use that GPT model to ask for a question. No, we're going to search in internal structures inside indexed systems for that information. But we will retrieve then, of course, a lot of raw outputs. It can be multiple document paragraphs, all in a different format, with a different structure and a different style. And then in step 4, we're gonna summarize it. We're gonna rephrase it in a nice single response. And for this one, we go to the Azure OpenAI service, which is then powered by that GPT and that language model. And it's only for that summarization to rewrite what we already found in internal sources that we use that language model. So we will not search actually in the language model, we just use it to rephrase. Then we do as well the validation and then a moderation to make sure that we don't harm any output. And then we deliver it back. And so this is a very important understanding, that we don't just send a question to GPT and ask him for an answer, because first of all, it's a fixed model already trained a few months or years ago, and you even don't know anything of your data. You see here a few examples of all the different data sources that we can bring in. It can be public websites coming from websites that are cached by Bing, and then we use the Bing cache. It can be custom searches that you can configure. It can be internal documents coming from a SharePoint or a OneDrive for Business that we allow you to ask questions on your own data. Maybe you have built your own Azure AI model, then you can bring it easily as well in that search criteria so that the Copilot is able to use it as well. You just can upload documents for a certain topic. It can happen that you say, I have here a topic where I just want to use those 3 or 5 documents. You just give the documents to a certain topic, and the topic will only use those documents. And you can even customize the data. And with those indexed systems, he will then search for information, and then he's gonna use it, Azure OpenAI, to find information, get the response, and send you the response back. I will show it live in a demo within a couple of minutes. The second one is the generative actions. Here the difference is that with actions, we will use the more than 1,200 action blocks that we have already within Power Automate. And we're going to give it to the chatbot so that the chatbot is by himself understanding what he can do with the actions, and he will use it by himself when he thinks it's needed. You see here on the screen, and I will show it later on as well, MSN Weather. By just giving him the MSN Weather activity, he understands that all the weather-related questions he can maybe ask to that action, and he will then actually call the action himself, send that information to that API, retrieve a response, and reformat the response nicely and send it back. And then finally, we have the generative building, which is on today only yet available in the USA, where you can describe just from a business sentence what the chatbot needs to do, and he will create for you a whole topic just by describing a business phrase. So then how this works, you define a business phrase. Copilot will then look with the GPT, what does it mean? He will then convert that into a kind of a YAML file, give this to the Copilot Studio. It will create a topic, will give you then the result, and then you can further tweak it and extend it. And so it comes with a new pattern that we can have in our chatbot journey if we look in with that generative AI capability. And first of all, in the first stage, building the chatbot or a topic, you can do it maybe by doing completely by yourself from a draft, from blank, or you can maybe use that Copilot assisted authoring to help you building that topic and that journey. In the second one, we will see that we will have topics that are generated and defined properly on procedure that we really want the user to go through in a structured way. Or maybe we go into that more AI capability with that generative answer and use a large language model. And good to know is that we don't want always that language model. Maybe think about a holiday request. We're still going to ask the user, okay, what is the date that you want, for how many days? And then we're going to just book it into the internal systems. For those, we still can rely on that stage too. And then still, if the language model is not able to find it, we have the escalation ways to go maybe to a live agent or an omni-channel experience, which is still there on today. And so to summarize, the 3 different areas to answer is using document searches, use internal indexed capabilities on SharePoint, on documents, on OneDrive, on external URLs, and allow the bot to use those ones to find the answer. To act is more using the Power Automate connectors to connect with external systems to retrieve information out of an API, and maybe even ask the user for actions, showing him maybe an adaptive card, and ask him for what he wants to do and get in a more interaction with that user. and then the generative assistant to build and really have a kind of support in building the topics and extending existing topics. So building custom topics, Copilot Studio is there for you to help and build topics when you want to know information about your own data. We saw already, we have now that generative AI that easily helps you to build a chatbot where you can have your chat about your data. We can build chatbots to help complete tasks by bringing in plugins. The same example, maybe again, think about that holiday request. I can have easily a chatbot if I want to book a holiday that first go through a plugin, retrieve from an HR system the open amount of holidays that I still have, inform me if I still have enough days to book that holiday, go in a conversation to retrieve the start end date, and finally maybe use again a connector or a plugin to actually book that holiday request into the backend HR system. And we can use the Copilot, of course, to extend existing Copilots and to customize them with our own procedure. And then on the top one, the first-party Copilots are more for content creation or actions to help better user services. Think about creating a PowerPoint. You can easily do it with a first-party Copilot. It will be quite hard for Copilot Studio to build it in a custom one. Or like we maybe all have seen already, the automatically email generation, that he will look in all the emails from a certain thread of a certain customer and then rephrase it into a new nice email. So here you see that first-party Copilots are focusing on generation more capabilities, features from that service or that program. Examples of building a custom Copilot, you see here, can be in many different business units in areas. Think about IT services. If you want to have a new laptop, now a chatbot easily can communicate with you in a way that he asks you, okay, look, this is the chatbots. You can then ask questions. Oh, okay, but how many CPU power do I have, or what is the storage capacity? And he can easily find it maybe in specs and answer you in that same multi-turn conversation. Think about customer facing, where people now can log in, we understand who they are, and they can then ask for actions like give me a copy of my receipt or product information. It's not only those ones. We can have many examples looking to industries or even looking into certain departments. But let's now go a little bit in a live demo and show you actually how this comes live. I go now into my demo environment. So first of all, I'm going to build a custom Copilot to show you really how quickly a Copilot can be created. So I just go to copilot.microsoft.com and I click on, I want a new Copilot. Let's call it demo 1. And I can enter here an URL. So let's say that I want here learn.microsoft.com, and I want a bot that is able to answer all the questions that is available on the Learn page of Microsoft. And I click on Create. And you will see in just a couple of minutes, I have a bot ready that is able to answer all the questions that he can find himself, which are available on the learn.microsoft.com. And let's already pick my first question, for example, how to configure a Copilot plugin action. So a normal bot without generative AI would be quite hard to build and have all the different topics handled. It will allow me to build thousands and thousands of topics. But now easily, with a single bot, I can ask in a couple of minutes all the questions that he can find himself through that language model, and here you have the answer. You have easily the answer that he found it in the Microsoft Learn article. So how did he did this? Let me show you, and I have another environment that I will then show you, which has a lot more features to show. If I look in the tracking, what actually has been done, and this is exactly the same in my own demo that I just created, but here you will see I have already a little bit more. You see that generative answer block. You see here nicely where we just had a single step for you to provision what is the data sources that you want to use. And you see we configured here the learn.microsoft.com as the source how to find that answer. So actually with a single block and tell them, look, if you don't know, if there is no other trigger helping me, jump here and use that generative answer to find my information. And we will have that response and send it back. But you can customize it sometimes. Like here now, if I ask the same question, you can change it. For example, you can even still give custom instructions. For example, act like a Microsoft technical agent, a little bit in a friendly, helpful, cheerful way, and responds nicely. So you can even change and add additional instructions that you want to send to that Azure OpenAI to summarize, to rephrase. And you can, on this way, define another outcome depending on your needs. So this was the first example where I can use just a public website. Let's now go to another example. For example, how is the Microsoft Power Automate licensed and handled in Power Platform? So in this example, you will see that actually he could done this through the Microsoft Learn page. But now what I did is I created another topic. I created my own topic and say, look, for all the related questions, that is, for all the questions related to licenses, use this dedicated topic. What you already see here is the dynamic chaining, where he understands in a business context all the different trigger phrases. I execute the same generative answer capability, but now instead of using a public website, what I was using is a SharePoint URL. A SharePoint URL that is containing all my documents on the licenses that I have. Now it's for license, but you can use whatever internal document and that way. And so I received a response by the Copilot from that question, and he used the documents to find that information. So here you saw as well that we could use a SharePoint integration to find information internally. Let's now go a little bit further, and let's say, for example, what is the weather in Amsterdam? And here it would be quite hard, and I will type, well, to have a topic that is understanding this. You can imagine this is almost hard in the past for without generative answer to have a topic that is handling this. So here what you will see is that I will have that capability of the actions. I configured an action, the MSN weather, and I told the system, look, you have the MSN weather action that you can just use. And you will see that he extracted out of my sentence a location, Amsterdam, sent it himself through that MSN weather, retrieved that output, and then responded nicely into an answer. And so you see how we can bring in plugins in this way, building blocks, giving to Copilot, and Copilot will use it himself on the moment that he needs it. And for example, I can ask other questions as well. And what is the wind speed, for example? A complete another question, but still related to weather. You will see that Copilot understands this, send it again to that forecast once, and then retrieve additional information, which he can get from that forecast. I can even go a little bit further. For example, what is my work location? I've linked as well the Office 365 connectors. So I have all my user information here now in the system. And he tells me, look, my work location is Brussels, because he can find this in my Office profile. And then the dynamic chaining allows me to use multiple actions together. So if I would ask, what is the weather of my work location? You will see now that he understood that I was working in Brussels. And he will now take that Brussels information and send it to a second action, the forecast, to retrieve that information. And so that is a good example of that dynamic chaining. He will, by himself, understand all the action blocks he has and link them nicely together. And so you can easily configure them. You can build your own custom topics, or you can bring in the two plugin actions as I just did. If you would do it yourself, you will see that you have the whole list of all the actions available, which we have as well already in Power Automate. So for example, if I would look in ServiceNow without any problem as well, you can just build that ServiceNow connector, give it to the bot, and the bot is then understanding and allowing to use it on his own. And those are the examples of that generative AI capability that we discussed. We saw here the dynamic chaining with generative actions. Not only the generative actions, but as well the dynamic chaining, how everything nicely was connected to each other. And we saw the boost conversational coverage by the generative answers, how we just can give documents, sources to my chatbot. So let's go back to the slide deck. And because sometimes it can happen that this is not enough. And that's really where I want to end. Copilot Studio is easily as well able to link to Azure AI Studio, where I configured that document source from SharePoint or from a public website. I had the capability lower as well to upload custom documents or just to link in Azure AI Studio. And so the difference is if you want to change a little bit maybe the way that that model needs to handle. A good example is I had a discussion with a customer a few weeks ago, and it was a risk department. And he wanted to ask questions on documents to find a risk. And therefore, out of the box language model was filtering out harmful questions. But he wanted to ask those ones because that was his job, his intent. And so the only way here was go to that Azure, build your own language model, remove that harmful capability, and then use this easily as well in Copilot. Or think about if you want to go further in analytics or other searches as well. So this is the Azure OpenAI integration where you easily then can build in your custom model in Azure and bring it into the Copilot. Think as well the skills. You can build multiple bots. Each of them is then defined as a skill where you can link bots even together. For example, you have already a bot from a third-party system. You can then link it as a kind of a skill to Copilot. And if Copilot don't know it, that he can use that external bot maybe as a fallback to continue. And so with this one, to end, Azure AI Studio is there as an extension to go even further, tailor your interactions, have more data-driven decisions where you can go with what is the model that you want to use, and maybe not only GPT, but other as well that we support, and have the full control of things like temperature and the way that the bot handles. We will slide. So to learn more, you see here a few URLs that are available to start from everything I showed. We have Copilot Studio in a day package, a lot of information is available, and a lot of hyperlinks, even trials. Try Copilot Studio yourself, that I recommend you maybe to look further. And with this, let's hand over to the questions.
Perfect. Thank you, Davy, for a great presentation and demos. So now we'll get into the questions and answers part. Should you wish to ask a question, please feel free to type in the question window now. So Davy, just our first question is, how does the generative AI of Copilot Studio differ from traditional chatbot technology? What advantages does it offer in terms of user experience and functionality?
Well, I hope that during the demo where I showed that generative answer capabilities, that he understands more not only what the user is asking. Remember that license trigger, we just can define a business scenario. We don't have to specify all the triggers ourselves. But more important, we can now just point to sources, and AI will then understand those sources, go to indexes, retrieve information, and rephrase it. So it's a little bit like we have that multi-turn capability. We don't have to specify all these steps step by step by ourselves.
Perfect, Davy. Just the second question there. What measures are in place to ensure the security and privacy of data when utilizing Copilot Studio's generative AI within Microsoft technologies, especially
Yes.
considering the sensitive nature of conversational data?
Yes. I didn't include it in this slide, but first of all, by using Azure OpenAI Studio, Azure OpenAI, all the data stays in your environment. The only thing that is sent to the large language model is on the end the rephrasing, the re-summarization. By using that Copilot capability, it is acting in all the ways that you would expect from Microsoft to handle your data securely. We don't going to use your data to get trained. We don't use your data. It gets stored for 30 days inside your own organization for yourself to get analytics and get insights, but it always stays in your own environment. I think in one of the hyperlinks on the end, there was a link to the Microsoft articles. And if you search on Bing, the Microsoft security principles on Azure AI, you will see nicely what Microsoft do and how secure it will guarantee your journey.
Perfect, Davy. I think that's all the questions. So on behalf of the ESBC community, we'd like to extend a big thank you to you again, Davy, for taking the time today to carry out this webinar, and we really appreciate it. So that's the end of today's webinar. You can find this webinar and more at sharepoint.com/resource center. Thanks again to you all for joining us today, and I hope you'll join us again soon. Take care.